Hey, what's going on, everyone? What's going on, good people? Thank you to whoever gave me the like ahead of time. That is always appreciated. I am a smaller channel, so every little bit of support helps. Give me a second here. Before I jump in, let's see. Let me cue this up here. Whoever is in the audience, let me know who's here. Usually, cynical optimist, he's the first one in. Oh, let's see who the first one is. Cynical optimist. Bro, you are always the first one at bat. Oh, more viewers. Okay, so we got Andre. Okay, Andre friending me on the book, fascist book. Peace, Andre. Snowman, what's going on? Oh yeah, Snowman. So yeah, today this is a dusty. This is a Dustin Monday. So this is Monday. I went back to work today. Shout out to the field master Ron Wills. I got my first experience book vending and speaking on a panel last week, presenting my book. Shout out to Money Motion. Money Motion bought a copy. Money Motion, thank you for your support, everybody. I will be advertising this at the end of the stream and into the holiday season. So yeah, I got my first experience vending. I'm going to talk a little bit about that toward the end of the stream. And today was back to the day job. It was back to battle. So when you get back to the day job, you get a little bit dusty. So I thought this would be a good time to bring out my Valdez the Angry Man merch. Shout out to the Angry Man. I'd like to talk to him and interview him one day. But I probably need to hit his Cash App up more. Those of you who watch the Angry Man, you know what that joke is all about. Somebody, please hit the Cash App, please. We got 300 people in here. Somebody, please hit the Cash App. All right, Paul Wilson, Toya's not here, so but that's another inside joke there. Thank you for showing up, Paul Wilson. He says, "What up, Dr. Dunbar?" Snowman says, "I'm dusty, is all get out and proud of it." Yes, if you're not getting dusty, you're not making a living. You're not generating any kind of productivity. You're not generating any kind of income. So in dust, we trust. All right. Tonight we're going to talk about Whoopi Goldberg's advice on marrying well. There is a lot going on now. We're here in the district. We're facing another potential government shutdown. I'm in the public sector, so that would impact me. But if that happens, you'll see me more here. If that happens, if we get a little short dismissal from work, you guys will see me more. And there's always lots to cover. Passport OG, shout out to him. He dropped another Savage video earlier, which I was tempted to do in place for this one, but I don't want to make this the Passport OG groupie channel. So we'll do that later. And T Riddler wanted me to do something on grandparents raising children more so than ever today. But let me play the intro, and then we'll jump in. Let me see if I can get on and off in an hour. By the way, Snowman, we over on my sports channel, Wednesday is our day for Michigan football, and we usually end up doing a panel. So if you want to come over at some point, and now they're mostly Michigan guys. So, but if you want to come over and give your thoughts on the top 25 or the playoff or whomever, you're always welcome to join. So Wednesday is the day for that. All right, the intro. Then we'll talk about Whoopi Goldberg and marrying well, and there's some other things I'm going to set that up with. So let's go. Please smash that like button. Donations are welcome. I just read up my StreamYard, and that was a ton. But if you guys see fit, I appreciate the viewership. So I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Life is not about having fun all the time, and there are no cultural solutions. No, there are no political solutions for cultural deficiencies. Shout out to Curtis Gold. So, where did this topic come from? So I'm going to admit that uh, because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information.
That we will rush to finish things that are important so we can do things that are not. And I believe it's an immaturity there. Uh, People just they don't understand that, life isn't about having fun all the time. You have to have fun sometimes. I agree. But as an adult, there's time where you have to just say, okay, listen, I got to get down to work right now. And I don't think enough of us value that time or really understand the fruits of that labor. Somehow we think things are just going to be without that kind of effort. And culturally, there's a deficiency there. That's why I always say that there's no political solution for cultural deficiencies.
So, where did this topic come from? So, I'm going to admit that uh, because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Not everybody is privy to the same information. Guys, again, please smash that like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you're new and the algorithm has brought you here, I recognize all the guys there in the chat. So hopefully you all are still subscribed. If you weren't, you wouldn't be here. Okay, not everybody is privy to the same information. So um, I was just going to do this in article form, but Crimson Cure, she did a video on this 2 weeks ago, which um, alerted me to this Whoopi Goldberg thing. There are a lot of Whoopi Goldberg things. We could go back to the damage that some say her and Alice Walker and Steven Spielberg and Oprah, they caused a lot of damage to the Black community. So we could go all the way back there. But there are a lot of Whoopi Goldberg things, especially now being on The View. Not everybody likes The View. Not everybody thinks the ladies on The View know what they're talking about. But Whoopi has made several waves in this season of her life on The View. Shout out to Crimson Cure. I did read her book. I'd like to interview her one day. Shout out to Jeff St. James. We need to bring back more reading. This is a good book. Shout out to AB Media. He got a copy of this and he's reading this right now. This is Reclaiming the Black Feminine by the Crimson Cure. And I think we'll start with that, reclaiming the Black feminine, and then just femininity in general and gender roles. Before I show the Whoopi Goldberg video, the Crimson Cure Whoopi Goldberg video, I have a warm up here about, and I just happened to see this when I was getting home and stretching out from work. This video is called Most Men Want Return to Traditional Gender Roles, but Women Not So Sure. So now I talk about, I don't want to get into the relationship space because I'm not a relationship expert. I've never been married, and I'm just not a relationship expert. So who am I to talk about relationships? But I can give commentary on culture and society and the state of the world, and that's kind of what I do right now. So before I jump into this, going back to the intro, not everybody is privy to the same information. So since we're talking about marriage and Whoopi Goldberg and marrying well, I haven't shown this to you guys in a while. You guys know that I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm a blogger, but this is one of the first essays that I published on my blog. I'm not able to publish my own stuff much anymore due to time. But this is a blog post I wrote back in 2017. And this is entitled Mother's Day 2017, One of My Mother's Greatest Gifts, Getting Engaged and Avoiding My Own Personal Fiscal Cliff. So as a lead in, I'm going to say that a mentor someone whose words that I really, really trust once told me that whether you marry and who you decide to marry, that's going to be the most important decision of your life, at least your adult life. The goat is here. Man, I'm so tempted to show your just this Warren Farrell video you did at the end, but I feel like that should have its own live stream. Salute to the goat, salute the passport OG Domo. Um, but this mentor told me that the person you marry, who you decide to marry, if you marry today, if you marry, that is the most important decision that you'll ever make in your life, because that's going to determine if you want to continue your bloodline. That's going to determine that. It's going to have an impact on your finances if you two aren't quote unquote equally yoked financially. You could go over the fiscal cliff. You might overspend on a wedding, okay, in the beginning. Are you marrying someone who has bad credit? Are you marrying someone who has a lot of debt? Okay, are you marrying someone with the same spiritual values? Is the person going to make your life better over the long term? Or are they going to make it worse? And are you two even going to go the entire journey together, so that one of you buries the other? In yesteryear, in years past, that was more common. Today, not so much. Not so much. You only need to go over to Passport OG's library to get a better understanding of why I say today, not so much. So in this particular blog post, the long and short of it is, my mother told me, I wish I'd gotten this information beforehand, that it's the custom for the bride's family to pay for the wedding. Okay. And let's just say the person I was engaged to, she was bidding the price up and up and up for a wedding. And we did not have the money. Okay. And my paper wasn't straight at that time. Shout out to Jason Black. My paper wasn't straight. So I was very much headed over the fiscal cliff. And a really important stat from this blog post that I looked up: couples that spend less than $10,000 on a wedding, they tend to stay together longer, versus couples who pay more than 10%. I'm sorry, couples who pay more than $10,000 on a wedding, they tend to break up more readily. So there's something about that threshold. If you want to stay together, maybe you want to spend less on your wedding, or maybe you want the bride's parents to pay for it. But that's something to keep in mind. And then the other thing, what people know and don't know, and what information people are privy to, if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, your fiance, if it doesn't work out, she's supposed to return the ring to you. That's not a piece of information that I got in my family. Okay. But I just thought that would be a good jumping off point for this. And another piece, getting to Whoopi. I'll leave the link here in case one of you guys want to read this. Getting to Whoopi, how many parents talk about this piece that, if you die, particularly for the women, and you marry well, and you marry a guy who's well off, and you guys are able to save money and stack and build wealth, when he dies, you'll be able to live off his retirement. You'll be able to live off the earnings from the business that he creates or that you all create together. You'll be able to live off of all of those things. How many of us were taught that? How many ladies were taught that growing up, especially today, as an advantage to getting married? Okay, well, Whoopi has some comments about that. But before we get into that, let's take a look at what's happening with gender roles today. I didn't plan to show this, but I think this is worth showing. Give me a second here, because it kind of gets to this whole thing. And I think Passport OG hits a lot of this in his content. He's doing a lot of if you're unfamiliar with his content, you might think that he's just encouraging guys to get their passports and go overseas. But Passport OG is very much an anthropologist, in my opinion, and he's giving a lot of really good commentary on what's happening with relationships and culture and society and gender. Give me a second here. Okay, let me get rid of this ad. And he just says, "Oh, I'm in school. I just do this on the side." But he makes really, really, in my opinion, stellar content. Let's see. So this ad is taking a long time. All right. This is a short one. So this kind of takes the temperature for where our country is and where we are now with gender and society and culture, and even views on partnering long term and marriage. I think this is a nice lead in. This is called Most Men Want Return to Traditional Gender Roles, but Women Not So Sure. And this is from, of all places, MSNBC. Fair use, fair use. Fair use, fair use.
Majority of men in America want a return to traditional gender roles, but most women aren't so sure. That's just one finding from a brand new poll from the nonprofit news publication, The 19th, along with SurveyMonkey. We're the first folks to get a look at this. And the study also takes a look at Americans' views on toxic masculinity, as well as abortion access and stay-at-home parenting. There's a lot to dig into here with editor-at-large for The 19th, Aaron Haynes.
So guys, keep in mind, and I'm not saying this to, I said this in the last stream. I'm not saying this to make fun of my mom. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying this to belittle her or any of her peers. But keep in mind that the elder generation, they're looking and they're wondering why things are spinning out of control the way they are. But my mother did ask me, what does decentering men mean? What is decentering men? Okay, so she doesn't know what all this stuff, toxic masculinity, decentering men. They don't really know, aside from Black Uberu, BGS, Dr. Warren Farrell, who was featured in Passport OG's last video. They don't know what this is. Fair use, but it's wreaking havoc on everything. Fair use, fair use.
Aaron, I was so happy when I started looking at these poll numbers and I knew that you were available to talk about them because there is so much to dig into here. I want to start on the return to traditional gender roles. It's a gap that we see between men and women, but then there's also a gap between political party affiliations and generations. What can you tell us about these numbers? We've seen these kinds of gender gaps reflected in other recent polls, but this one was really fascinating.
Yeah. Well, listen, Allie, thanks so much for highlighting the poll where folks can visit 19thnews.org to really see the results and read our stories unpacking this. But yeah, gender roles was just among the issues that we asked about for the first time this year. This is the fourth time that we've done this poll with SurveyMonkey. And as you said, you had about half of Americans thinking that we should be worried about the impact of falling birth rates, for example, with more men worried about that than women. And
so that was profound. The falling birth rates, more men worried about that than women. What does that tell you? That's something that I've pondered for a while, that especially now, but even before now, I think men and women fundamentally see children and continuing bloodlines differently. So more men are concerned about that now, according to this data, than women are. Okay.
31% say society would be better off if young people prioritized having a family, right, before professional accomplishments or other goals. But there are gender gaps and there are partisan gaps in those numbers. Let me just say 39% of men versus 24% of women believe that. And then 15% of Democrats. 15% of Democrats compared to 51% of Republicans say society would be better off if young people kind of prioritized having families before those professional accomplishments. And so, what does that mean? How is that showing up in their politics? How is that showing up in the choices that they're making every single day?
So guys, we are literally, I don't know, man. It feels like we're headed towards some sort of cataclysm right now. I mean, we just, the person, I won't say the name, who just got unalived, but with free speech, people being censored, people being unalived, this gender thing, the birth rate crisis. It feels like we're definitely headed towards some sort of cataclysm. I don't know what that is. I don't know what I don't know what that is. Please smash that like button. Please consider subscribing if you're not subscribed. Fair use.
I also think that there's something that reminded me of when I was looking at a recent NBC News poll that we did that showed that Harris supporters had a much lower prioritization of having kids and starting a family, specifically female Harris supporters, compared to men overall in that poll who prioritized that much more highly. I thought that this was just another fascinating data point that can potentially explain the political as well as societal divide that's happening right now between young men and young women. I think the other thing that I was struck by was that your poll also looked at Americans' views towards toxic masculinity. Most of them overall, 62% of Americans agreed that it's a problem, but there was a gender gap here as well.
There it is. Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity.
71% of women agreed that toxic masculinity was a problem, compared to only 53% of men.
Okay, so that says Americans who think toxic masculinity is a problem. Republican women, 55%. Republican men, 34%. So there's a bit of a split over there. But what is toxic masculinity? What exactly is it? Fair use.
And generationally, as you looked younger, more people, more women specifically, saw toxic masculinity as a problem. And I feel like that shows up in our politics as well.
Yeah. But I do think it is notable that over half, 53% of men did say that toxic masculinity is a problem for our society. Look, this is something that...
Okay, so these numbers say, this is just Americans who think toxic masculinity is a problem. 71% of women, which is the majority, and just barely 53% of men. Okay, fair use, fair use.
The 19th covered, during the campaign, and also as we have, we're 8 months into this administration, and we're seeing how some of this particular brand of masculinity, right, that we're seeing playing out across the Trump administration. How is that playing into? How is that translating into not just rhetoric, but also policy, right? So if this is a concern for 7 in 10 Americans, what are they prepared to do? How are they prepared to act on that? How are they maybe going to push back on that, either, in society or even maybe...
Well, she said, okay, let's go back. She said 7 in 10 Americans. That's 7 in 10 women. Okay. So so what does that mean if she says 7 in 10 Americans? Is that accurate? I'm looking at this and this says 7 of 10 women, not total Americans. Fair use, fair use.
Administration, and we're seeing how some of this particular brand of masculinity, right, that we're seeing playing out across the Trump administration. How is that playing into? How is that translating into not just rhetoric, but also policy, right? So if this is a concern for 7 in 10 Americans, what are they prepared to do? How are they prepared to act on that? How are they maybe going to push back on that, either, in society or maybe even at the ballot box?
Yeah, and I do think that there's, in this larger conversation of toxic masculinity and the way that the so-called manosphere manifests in politics, there's almost this backlash.
Uh-oh, she said it. The manosphere. The manosphere. The manosphere. The manosphere.
conversation of toxic masculinity and the way that the so-called manosphere manifests in politics, there's almost this backlash to more women and more people broadly recognizing the privilege that comes along with being male in a society like ours. I think that that's definitely showing up in politics too. But then the poll also does poll an issue that is both gender and also overtly political, and that's on abortion access. You say that nearly 2/3 think abortion should be legal in all or most cases. That tracks actually with where Gallup polling has shown this to be in the past. But very small numbers think the government should restrict use of IVF, hormonal birth control, emergency contraception. That's also consistent with polling on the issue. But what do you think about how Democrats can use polling like this to layer onto a platform that's very much up for debate right now?
Okay, so that says Americans who think government should restrict the use of IVF, 10% hormonal birth control, 6% emergency contraception. Okay. So, I mean, that's a minority of people. That's a minority of people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, Democrats obviously talked a lot about abortion, not only in the last midterm election, where as we look ahead to another midterm, but also in the last presidential election. But also they talked about the economy, right? The economy continues to be the number one issue, and thinking about reproductive care, reproductive access, not just as a health issue, but also as an economic issue. We have also in our poll many Americans being worried about their ability to pay the bills, right? And so, the decision to have a family or not, that is absolutely one of the things that goes into it. People who are worried about their cost of living, having a family, starting a family, that definitely is also an economic issue. And so I think all those things maybe are tied up together, and we could see those two things being intertwined and playing out in our politics as well.
You and I have talked about the way that reproductive health care is actually an economic issue, and we're not the only ones. That was former Vice President Kamala Harris who often made that point. And you actually spent some time with her last night on the opening stop of her multi-state book tour. Talk a little bit more about that conversation, whether or not you see this.
There's Cammie. She's on a book tour. She wrote a book, Support Black Authors. Hey, girl. Fair use.
As an end or a beginning, new beginning for her political career?
Yeah, it was really interesting. So, 107 Days is the book that finally has her, in her own words, kind of recounting her historic, unprecedented campaign for president. Obviously was unsuccessful in that, but, she unpacks kind of the lessons learned and gives people a behind the scenes. And this was really her first time in front of a crowd to discuss that. The crowd was super energetic and she really seemed to feed off of that. And so she said this 15-city book tour, which kicked off in New York last night, is an opportunity to listen to people, to hear where she is and what she's thinking, but also how the American people are thinking and what they think the fight is going to look like going from here. So really interesting. And I'm really interested to see how this tour continues and what she learned from it and what she might do as a result of it.
Yeah, you've covered her for such a long time. You and I are both politics reporters. Anytime we hear that a politician is out in the country listening, you always wonder, all right, what are you listening for? What do you need to hear to make the next step in your political career? I know you'll be tracking it, whatever it is. Editor at large for the 19th, Erin Haynes. Always love having you. Great to see you.
All right, guys, that's a little setup to Whoopi. Let's see. We're gonna do something different. We're gonna have a little funny interlude. Has anyone here? This is gonna be a short. Has anyone ever watched the channel El Haj? And I'm taking a risk here, but it's a short. But hopefully, I don't get stricken for this. Has anyone here ever watched the channel El Haj? Anybody? Okay, this is a little funny interlude. Then we'll get to Crimson Cure. I watch this channel sometimes. These people are very, very talented. There's a channel called El Haj, and they do these little skits. This is his main. He's the guy. He's probably the producer / coordinator, and he has several actresses work with him. This is the main one. I think she's gorgeous. Of course, all of his co-stars are gorgeous, but this is a funny little skit. We'll just I'm experimenting here. Passport OG, your first time hearing of him. Okay. Yeah, this one is called, I don't know if she's African or British. She changes her accent, but I think this woman is gorgeous. Very use, very use. This one is called "You Are Very Demanding." Hashtag shorts.
Elhaj. God, we're gonna be so late. See, this is why I don't like going places with Elhaj. Ah. Elhaj. We have to go.
Yeah, sorry. All right,
What are you doing? What's going on?
let's go.
What are you wearing?
What do you mean what I'm wearing? I'm wearing clothes.
You look like you stink.
Well, I just got out the shower.
Well, it looks like you just cleaned the shower.
What's the problem?
I think you're just playing games with me right now.
Can we go?
No, we're not going anywhere looking like that.
Looking like what?
Looking like this. You look crazy.
What's wrong with what I got on?
You need to wear clothes. What are you doing?
You said we're going to your friend's house, right?
No, we're going to a friend's dinner.
Okay, this ain't nothing special. It's not like we're going to an event or something. Let's go.
Okay, do you see how I'm wearing? And do you see how you're wearing?
We'll go put on some sweats.
I'm not putting on some sweats to go to my friend's house. You need to just take life seriously. You look like you're joking.
What?
This is an embarrassment. Can you please just... I'm so stressed right now. Can you just go change?
See, this is the problem with you. Since we got married, everything is an issue. I don't like the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you act, the way you this, the way you that. Like, I'm tired, man. Stop trying to change me. What's the problem?
Why would...
So he's got very good comedic timing, and that expression on his face. He's very funny. And he co-stars with her most of the time, but they do relationship skits. One more minute.
Doing this right now. We're already 30 minutes late. Can you just... You know what? This is just crazy.
Look, when I bring you to my friend's house, do I tell you how to dress?
No, but everybody's always wearing just sweats and Yeezys. Who cares? This is my African friend's house. We need to go there looking presentable.
What is the big deal? We've been there before.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We need to always look presentable, and we're always having the same arguments right now.
Okay.
Can you just change?
So why do we have to overly dress up for them?
We're not overly dressing up. We're looking presentable, so we look like we're taking our life seriously.
See, this is the thing. You got to stop hanging out with judgmental people. You do.
Every African is judgmental, honestly. It doesn't matter. We grew up like that.
So stop caring. Just be you. Why you care about what other people think?
Can you just please... You know what? That's fine. We won't go.
Why not?
We just won't go. We're already late anyway.
Always trying to change somebody. Like, no, I'm not going to do that with you. If you don't like me who I am, it is what it is.
So shout out to Elhaj. That looks like they're in Arizona. Looking at that backdrop, looks like they're in Arizona. Just a little humor there, guys. I thought it would be fun to break it up. Hopefully I don't get a strike for that. That's a short. You normally don't get strikes on the shorts. All right. Ray Alexander. Ray Alexander is here. He saw me talking about marriage. So Ray Alexander is here. Shout out to Ray Alexander. Guys, Super Chat is live. If you want to send me a Cash App, I just read up the StreamYard. But I appreciate the viewership. So, it's whatever. Okay. Crimson Cure and Whoopi Goldberg. Crimson Cure and Whoopi Goldberg. Let's see. And Whoopi got in trouble. She got in trouble for, did she say something about Jewish people or Israel and Palestine? She really got in trouble one time recently for talking about something that she probably shouldn't have been sounding off on. All right, shout out to Kendra. She does a lot of good work on her channel. Very good work on her channel from a woman's perspective, from a Black woman's perspective. And I know AV Media said that he's reading her book right now. So I want to support another Black author. And yeah, if you know any young women in your circle who could use this and want them to kind of be able to sift through what's happening right now, this is a good book, especially for young Black girls, reclaiming the Black feminine. Shout out to Kendra D, the Crimson Cure. Whoopi Goldberg can't afford to retire. Now, keep in mind, Whoopi is married. She has married several times. The only one I can think of is Ted Danson, but she's married several times, and I think each time it was a white man. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but okay, let's jump in. Fair use, fair use.
To learn, heal, and grow. Hey there, my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel. I'm your hostess, femininity coach, and author of The Crimson Cure, and this is my perspective. So we got here very interesting. This has been a real interesting week. We got Miss Whoopi Goldberg. Miss Whoopi been single a very long time. She was married a couple of times. One of them was with Ted Danson. It's always been white men, and we're gonna touch on that. But Miss Whoopi has been single for a very long time. And she says this: she can't afford to retire from The View, even after 18 seasons. If you don't marry well, you have to keep working.
Isn't that odd that you have to wonder what Ted Danson likes? Okay, if well, maybe Whoopi is what he likes, but you know, they seem like a bit of an odd couple to me. Ted Danson, very interesting, very useful.
Okay, after nearly 2 decades on The View, Whoopi Goldberg is speaking candidly about why stepping away isn't an option. The 68-year-old actress, mind you, Miss Whoopi is almost 70 years old. She's well past retirement age, especially for having the career that she has had. She should be in a position where she don't need to do anything. She should be on The View because that's just something that she wants to do, not something that financially she needs to do. However, here we are. The 68-year-old actress, comedian, and talk show host revealed that financial security, or the lack thereof, is a driving factor in her decision to continue working. Reflecting on her 18 seasons with The View, Goldberg admitted that if you don't marry well, you have to keep working. The quote highlights the economic reality that many women face, even those with long, successful careers in Hollywood. Despite her achievements, an EGOT, that's an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony.
Okay, Black Uru has entered the chat. Salute to Black Uru. He says, Ted Danson never married Whoopi. Okay, so that means these periodicals and outlets are lying. So I guess they just dated, according to Black Uru. But what Kendra just said, I want to give a disclaimer. She's a celebrity, so I think we have to be careful about looking at celebrities. But I think what Whoopi said, I think it speaks to something else that applies to the lay person, the lay woman on the street. If you don't marry well, you have to keep working. And it's surprising that someone of her stature and with her career would have to keep working. That's surprising. So let's keep going.
Winner with a decade-spanning career, Goldberg emphasized that financial stability is not guaranteed in the entertainment industry. Her honesty shines a light on a larger issue: the expectation that fame automatically ensures wealth and comfort in later years. Goldberg's comments remind audiences that career longevity often comes with ongoing financial obligation, lifestyle demands, and the pressure to stay relevant in a competitive industry. As one of the longest-serving co-hosts of The View, Goldberg continues to bring her humor, insight, and bold perspective to the table. While retirement may not be on her horizon, her candor about the challenges of aging in show business resonates with fans and underscores the reality many face, regardless of fame or fortune. See, they didn't pay attention to what she said. They got to talking about financial literacy, which that is an issue. She's blown her money. She's obviously blown her money, because even if she didn't have any money prior to becoming a host on The View, 20 years worth of you on that show, you should be set from that. Even if there was some other goings on, maybe with royalties you couldn't get, or things that you couldn't get paid for anymore, work that you couldn't get paid for, maybe contracts bad, whatever the case may be. Let's see, you don't really have a lot of money, but you still got your name. And on the basis of her name, was able to nab the spot that she has right now on The View. But that's been almost 20 years. You can't tell me she's not making 5 to 6 figures a month.
That is surprising. Like, what if she was on the show for that long, making good money? What is she doing? You know, what is she doing? And that's the question. That's the question you have to ask when someone is making good money, but they're not getting ahead, or they're coming up short. You have to ask the question, what is this person doing? There was, in one of my blog posts, I did cite a Washington Post article, and it was called The Surprising Number of Americans Who Could Not Afford a $400 or $500 expense. And you would be surprised, but there were a number of people who made 6 figures who couldn't make an emergency $400 expense. So this seems to, I'm not saying Whoopi couldn't afford that, but it's similar. It's related, that she can't stop working. Well, what's she doing? Who's she taking care of? It's none of our business, but it's just surprising. And she said, she implied that if she married well, then she'd be able to go sit down somewhere. Fair use.
Probably six, right? Because they're paying her a grip per episode. So she's got to be making 5 to 6 figures every month from that show. What are you doing?
Even when your room is 80 degrees, your bed can be 55. That's the pod, a cooling cover that.
And they didn't listen to what she said. So like I said, financial literacy is a thing, yes. But she said, if you don't marry well, you have to keep working. She said, Miss Whoopi is a feminist to her heart. Miss Whoopi been a feminist for a long time. Okay? She's the face of the color purple, as Miss Seeley. Miss Whoopi been a feminist for a minute. You hear all of her feminist ideas. If you tune into The View, she's a feminist. She a proud one, and a proud one. And she said, and this is a woman who's been married before, that 2 white men. So she can't even say that, you know what I'm saying, she was married to black men, they did her dirty, and she just didn't get married no more. No, she was married to Mr. Cartwright, okay, for years. I don't know how many children she got, but I know she got a couple of kids. And so marrying Mr. Cartwright didn't help you. Got divorced from them, had to keep on working, finding something to do. You came through, you're on The View. So now you're somewhere every day, getting a paycheck every day. Okay? Doesn't mind being in some type of controversy, which to a certain degree, you want to be in some type of controversy a little bit, because it gives you a buzz. It gives you something, you know what I'm saying? People will tune in to hear what you said. You know what I'm saying? That's probably what has actually kept her relevant on the show for this long.
So guys, I won't say the name, but who else tried to warn ladies of having to work until they die? I won't say the name, but who else tried to warn them of that? That's the other reason this stuck out to me. Fair use. By the way, Black Uru Strikes says, I believe they would have married, but Ted's blackface incident prompted by Whoopi compelled him to get away from her pronto. Oh, she encouraged it. She encouraged the blackface thing that he did. Interesting. Okay. Ray Alexander, shout out to Ray Alexander. Ray Alexander says Whoopi Goldberg allegedly earns $8 million per season on, which is even more baffling that she has to keep working on The View. On The View. Yep, Stefan, those are the initials. Cynical Optimist, those are the initials right there. He talked about it on his show regularly. Okay, because it used to be that, yeah, if your husband built something, even if you worked and your husband saved and he died, usually the men died earlier, the wife would be the recipient of his nest egg or his pension. Karina's entered the chat. She says, I didn't even know she was married before. Oh, several times, Karine. I know she has one child with several grandchildren that she takes care of. All right, fair use, fair use.
Okay. And she a token black person. All right. And she still got a bigger name than any of them. Miss Whoopi been in Hollywood since what, the 80s, early 80s, maybe even late 70s. Maybe some movies that, you know what I'm saying, she was doing before she kind of hit it big with Jumpin' Jack Flash and Ghost and, you know what I'm saying, all that kind of stuff. So, and of course, The Color Purple. But Miss Whoopi had been acting a long time before The Color Purple. And, you know what I'm saying, it was comedy stuff, you know, that kind of thing. So she had a career. She had a name. She had, you know what I'm saying, people know who Whoopi Goldberg is. She didn't say my financial literacy was a problem. She didn't say all of that, although that might be the case as well. She said, if you don't marry well, you have to keep working, meaning I can't rest. I can't rest. I can't retire and know that my money gonna keep coming, because even if I don't make this money from this working, my husband that I've been with for the last 20, 30, 40 years, okay, he got me. And
Stefan, thank you for bringing this up. I'm a Trekkie, and yeah, she played the hell out of Guinan. I loved her in Star Trek: The Next Generation. I mean, as much damage as The Color Purple caused, you know, she played the hell out of Celie. I liked her in Ghost. So Whoopi has talent, no doubts there. But yeah, it's surprising that someone making $8 million per year can't retire. And I'm going to read some of her after this. I'm going to read some of her quotes on marriage. She doesn't, for her to say this is the other head scratcher. For her to say this, she hasn't spoken very highly of marriage. Okay. And one of the comments she made about being with somebody and being alone sounded an awful lot like what Shonda Rhimes said. All right, let's finish this up. Fair use, fair use.
Our old age, we both worked. He made good money. I made good money. We had a retirement plan. And so now we both can just relax now. And if he is around her age, he ain't got to work no more. And she ain't got to work no more. That's what she means. She means she can't stop. Because whatever house she's living in, whatever place she's living in, whatever thing she's used to, she's 68. She has been working in Hollywood since like her 20s and 30s. She's accustomed to living a certain way. You can't ask her to not do it or not be accustomed to that. She's accustomed to whatever she has made her lifestyle to be. Whether it was super lavish, modest, according to her money, or whatever the case may be. I don't know how Miss Whoopi lived. But however she living, she has been doing so chaotically. This is also where marriage comes in at. Because she has not had a man that she respects in her life that can give her structure and that care enough about her to make sure that that structure is implemented and that is beneficial to her. She know a lot of people. She know a lot of people. She know a lot of wealthy people. She know a lot of wealthy white people. She know a lot of wealthy black people. She know a lot of people. And I'm pretty sure that there are lots of those people, depending on what kind of relationships that she's had with them, they're probably willing to help out in a tough spot if she needs it, probably has already had to ask or whatever. But regardless of that, your husband is different from colleagues, people that you just know, even other close people. They don't have the patience and the love for you and the care for you to make sure that you're okay until you die.
I think what Kendra just said, that's something when we talk about older gender roles and taking the gender roles and smashing them against the wall, it's little nuances like this, I think, that are getting lost when talking about not returning to gender roles, not wanting to return to gender roles. Gender roles are evil. Okay, these are parts of the conversation that are not being had unless you want to convert completely over to a socialist society where the government pays for everything and everybody. All right, there's about 5 minutes left.
Only spouses that love each other and that value one another do that. Your children don't even do that.
Style starts with the details.
Hold on.
The difference between mid and next level, a real gold chain that.
Okay? That's why she's saying if you don't marry well. She didn't say if you don't invest your money well. She didn't say if you don't buy real estate and if you don't own businesses. You know what I'm saying? Because you can ask what's going on with her money. She's just spending it on who she's taking care of. What is she taking care of? Her children are grown. Okay, they've been grown. So is she still taking care of things, taking care of other people? You know what I'm saying? It could be anything. It could be anything at this point. But
Kareen of House Atreides. Kareen of House Atreides, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I very much appreciate that. Always happy to see you here. Ray Alexander says, a woman in Whoopi Goldberg's position should have said, if you don't invest well, you'll have to keep working. That's true as well, Ray Alexander. But we'll come back to that. Before I finish the video, I did do some book vending, my first book vending at the Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference last week. I saw Tamika Mallory. I saw Ben Crump all live. I saw Letitia James. I think I saw Hakeem Jeffries there. I saw all the Democratic activist folks. Years ago, when I covered the event as a reporter for the Examiner, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson led a wealth panel, and Dr. Michael Eric Dyson said that in a lot of Black families, the wealth gets siphoned off by Pookie and Ray Ray and Boo Boo and Man Man and Bebe's kids, and you got people going in and out of jail, and you've got people siphoning off the wealth. So it could be that there are individuals in her family that are siphoning off her wealth, people that she's taking care of who need constant help for whatever reason. We don't know. But when you're the breadwinner, when you're the sole breadwinner and you're unmarried, everybody's going to come to you, it seems. That's probably part of what's going on. That's speculation.
But the fact of the matter is, she must have at some point dropped the ball on the management of her money. Because you can't tell me she ain't making none. For 20 years on that show, on that View, them checks done went up. They may have started as modest checks, but the View been on too long and it get too much viewership. Them checks is nice. Them checks she getting is nice out the View. Long as she keeps showing up and them views keep on coming in and folks still tuning in, yeah. But she's unmarried. She's an old woman now. And that house get lonely. Because she said this was not too long ago. She talked about being single. This was actually on the show. And she was talking about being single. I don't know the context of the full conversation. But one of the things that she said in the snippet of that conversation, she said, I couldn't get married again because I'm too selfish. I couldn't get married again because I'm too selfish. I like stuff a certain way. I like things to go a certain way. And I don't want nobody in my space.
So that's one of the things she said about partnering in marriage. I'm going to go over those once this is finished. Kareen asked Letitia James. She's well, we know who Letitia James is. If you don't know, you should know who Letitia James is. Kareen, she was on a panel out in the expo hall. I was trying to mind my table and I was walking by, and she was on a big panel with I think Hakeem Jeffries was there as well, but there were other prominent Democratic elected officials on that panel. So they were, talking to the crowd, taking questions. So I didn't get a chance to meet her. And I just with everybody there, Ben Crump and Tamika Mallory, I just kind of fell back. I didn't really try to, oh my God, I got to shake their hand and I got to take a picture with them. I didn't do all that. So that's the answer to your question. T. Riddler, thank you for stopping through. Reynolds says, and divorce kills wealth building. And that goes back to the advice my mentor gave me, that the person you marry is probably going to be the biggest decision of your life. All right. And Whoopi does not like T. Riddler. I see the name in that comment. I don't know what it is. Okay. T. Riddler says, she's an attractive woman. I think Fannie Willis is an attractive woman. She's in a lot, she's got herself into trouble. I didn't see her there. She probably does not want to come out amongst the masses at this time, based upon the scandal she was in. Yeah, T. Riddler, very, very funny. All right. But Whoopi has not had good things to say about partnering and being with somebody.
I'm too selfish. i.e., I'm too chaotic. And in my chaos is selfishness. I don't want to have to check in with another person and bond my life and intertwine my life with them. I don't want to have another person that's in my life and in my home that I have to consider. I have to consider their feelings. I have to consider what they want. I have to fulfill their needs now. You know what I'm saying? And things of that nature. People get upset about things. People want to have a conversation about things. And now, you know what I'm saying? What she quote unquote, she was protecting her peace.
Milo, get off the toaster. Okay, sorry. I'm with you now.
That's okay. All right, Katie.
She was protecting her peace. Yeah, guys. So everything is a trade-off. It might be peaceful, to live alone. And I think, having your peace, that's very, very important. But there's trade-offs though. Like if something happens to you in the middle of the night, nobody will find out until days and maybe weeks later. So everything is a trade-off in life. There are no, what did Thomas Sowell say in it? Everybody doesn't like Thomas Sowell. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. So Whoopi seems to favor being by herself, according to Kendra.
What she basically saying. Since she don't have an answer to nobody, it's all good. And to a point, having actually lived like that for a little while and you don't have a husband that you got to answer to, it is kind of cool to a certain degree. But after a point, it get on your nerve. I don't know how women be single real long. You know what I'm saying? For decades, they be saying, I don't get that part because that got on my nerve. That got on my nerve. Yes, it was cool to be able to kind of come and go. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't even really doing nothing because I don't go out and like party and stuff. But it was kind of cool. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go to the museum that day, you know, you ain't got to ask permission. You know, you grown. You can go. You know? You want to get up and go shopping today and stop at Starbucks and get you a frap and go sit down and read a book. And I didn't have to ask nobody. Could I do that because I didn't have a husband, so I had nobody over me to check in when I'm doing it by myself anyway. And so a part of that is cool. But at the same time, after so long, it gets stupid.
So Kendra right there, she's speaking to who is this loneliness epidemic? Who's it affecting more? Okay, I think that's what she just spoke to without talking about that particular topic. Andre, I don't know why you would say this. I'm not going to bring that up. I don't know why you would say that about Kendra. Kendra is not a typical strag. Okay, I don't know why you would say that. Much respect to Kendra here on my platform. From me. Fair use. Let's finish this up.
Because you do be wanting to be with somebody. You do be wanting to talk to somebody. You do want, you know what I'm saying, somebody to be close to you and you can sort of, you know what I'm saying? Like you want to be lovers with them. You want to be friends with them and things like that. That's what she's looking at. She knows why she never got married, but now it's bugging her. But she's too old.
Do you guys think that it's bugging Whoopi Goldberg that she's not married? Is Kendra accurate there? Do you think it's bugging her? Ray Alexander says maybe more men and women of the Black community should consider a pragma marriage, a marriage characterized by commitment, practical actions, and shared goals. Yeah, Ray Alexander. I don't. Thank you for that. Today, it's very much about feelings and happiness and want and attraction in that particular season. I think what you're describing is what we had in yesteryears. But today, it's certainly about what I want and in this particular moment, what I want and what's going to make me happy. And in many instances, that changes. But thank you for that, Ray Alexander. Okay, Andre, Crimson Cure, not lately, but she used to run with BGS. She used to be on his BGS for Women show, and she's an ally. That's what I'll say. She's an ally. Fair use, fair use.
Too old. Winter came for Hollywood too. She's a boss chick. Ain't that what she is, y'all? She made it, right? All that money, all of that, you know what I'm saying? She had fame and wealth. Even if her wealth went up and down throughout the years, she's had wealth longer than she's not had wealth. And she's still talking about a man. Y'all don't get it yet? Jump down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe to the channel if you have not. Once again, I'm your host, The Crimson Cure, and this was my perspective. Bye-bye, Crimsonite.
All right, everybody. Well, let's hear the little piano at the end. All right, that's a signature of her show. Guys, you know, I might wake up in the morning and get an alert from Google saying, we struck your video. We demonetized it because you showed. I think if this gets demonetized, it might be because of the El Hajj thing. But, you know, they're looking to blow up and they're looking to get coverage. So if I'm lucky, I won't wake up and find a little surprise from Google saying that we demonetized it or we struck it. But once again, support Black authors. This is Kendra's book. I'm not. I didn't just use her content. I also bought her book and I read her book. I think this is, if you want to salvage what's left of the Black community, I think this is a good book to get for girls and any women that you know who don't know what's happened in total. Okay, let's go toward the end. Passport OG says, seeing how her co-hosts let their hair down after work is 1000% bugging her out. Yeah, even Sunny Hostin, she's married. She's got a husband. So I guess even Joy Behar, Anna Navarro, even though she dragged and disparaged men. So Anna Navarro, she's no stranger to misandry. I guess she has a husband or a boyfriend. So yeah, maybe Whoopi's the only one who's not booed up. Ray Alexander says, pragma marriage emphasizes the importance of dedication and stability in relationships, focusing on the practical aspects rather than the emotional highs or exclusively on physical passion. Yeah, the latter two things you described, those don't make for a long-lasting marriage. Ray Alexander says, Ray Alexander is cooking tonight. He says, pragma love is often rooted in shared routines, mutual support, and long-term commitment, making it essential for enduring relationships. All right, what kinds of things has Whoopi said over the years about marriage? And you know, she's a celebrity once again, but you have to ask, okay, how have some of these things reverberated out into the general population? I think that when Shonda Rhimes, I think when she said, hold on, I think when she was with Oprah and said, I don't want a man in my house, I think that has power. I think that has weight when someone like that says that. Because she has a following and she has influence. This says, everything Whoopi Goldberg has said about marriage over the years. Whoopi Goldberg has been married 3 times, but doesn't want to marry again. I'm going to try to sprint through this. Okay. I'm just going to go over this. You know what? Just briefly. Whoopi Goldberg isn't afraid to share her opinions. As a co-host of The View since 2007, Goldberg has been outspoken on everything from politics to the royal family to dating and more. But beyond her seat on the long-running daytime talk show, the Tilt actress has also spoken candidly about another topic over the years, marriage. Goldberg has been married 3 times. At 18 years old, Goldberg wed her drug counselor, Alvin Martin, in 1973. So apparently she had a drug problem at one point. The couple welcomed a daughter, Alexandria, that same year and eventually divorced 6 years later in 1979. She was then married to cinematographer Dave Clason from 1986 to 1988. Her third and final marriage was to actor Lyle Trachtenberg in 1994, though they divorced the following year. Since her third divorce, the EGOT winner has been very vocal about her views on marriage and her plans to not wed again, keep reading for everything Goldberg has said about marriage over the years. So shout out to Black Uru. Black Uru was right. She did not marry Ted Danson. So shout out to Black Uru. All right. I'm just going to skip to the quotes. Okay, so this subtitle says, she prepares to live solo. This quote says, I'm much happier on my own. I can spend as much time with somebody as I want to spend, but I'm not looking to be with somebody forever or live with someone. That was in 2016. She added, I don't want somebody in my house. Okay, that sounds exactly like Shonda Rhimes. Who said, I don't want a man. I didn't want to see a man in my house. I don't want somebody in my house. All right. In an August 23rd episode of The View, Goldberg's co-host had a lengthy discussion about why society often sees finding a spouse as the ultimate goal in life. At the end of the segment, Goldberg simply said, "I don't care." Okay. Okay, so this one says she's only been in love once. And this quote says, "I suppose that you have actually been in love with the person that you marry. You have to be really committed to them. And I don't have that commitment." Okay. Goldberg also shared with Morgan that she didn't marry for love, but rather because she wanted to feel normal. It seemed to me that if I was married, I'd have a much more normal life. But clearly that's not the case. There's not a good reason to get married. If you have to actually want a life with someone through ups and downs, and I just discovered that wasn't for me. Okay, she doesn't believe she's cut out for marriage. "I'm the round peg, and marriage is the square hole. You can't have a square hole, can you?" All right. And then she doesn't want the commitment. Okay, this is around 2019 when talking with Tamron Hall. When you make a commitment to someone else, it's a commitment to ask their opinion and listen and work it out with them. I don't want to do that. I don't want to share money. I know it's terrible, but I don't want to do it. She added, "I know for me it doesn't work." Okay. She married because society expected her to. I'm going to read the quote. "Look, people expect you to have a boyfriend. They expect you to get married. So I kept trying to do that, but I didn't want to share information with somebody else. I didn't want anybody asking me why I was doing what I was doing or to have to make the other person feel better. But if you're in a relationship, you have to do those things. And it took me a while to figure out that I didn't want to." She continued, "I'd be thinking, why don't I feel the thing that I'm supposed to? Then one day I thought, I don't have to do this. I don't have to conform. I tried marriage and it wasn't for me. You can't be in a marriage because everybody's expecting you to." This is the last one I'll read. She hates the phrase, "you complete me." There's just so many here. You want to keep going. She says, "If someone completes you and they drop dead, do you become half a person?" She quipped to USA Today, "You have to be a complete person when you start a relationship." I agree with that. Okay, so contrary to Tracy Ellis Ross, and who was the last one? Was it Tia Mowry? Younger men. This one says she finds relationships with younger men tiring, quote unquote. And I'll just read this quote. "It depends on my mood because it's about the person. Sometimes you meet somebody who was younger than you, and look, it would be perfect if everybody was well matched and well put together, but they're not. And you find it where you find it, and it may last a long time or it may not." All right. All right, guys, I could keep reading this. It's after an hour. So that's Whoopi's views on marriage and relationships. But it's interesting that she would come back and say that if you don't marry well, then you have to keep working. So she seems to be in that position, even though she seems to be well off. And she got backlash from Main Street because a lot of people felt like a lot of people feel like she's out of touch. You know, saying that these are hard economic times when she makes the money that she makes. She's a celebrity and she's still working and she's still getting paid quite a bit of money on The View. Black Uru Strike says she was kind of an interesting novelty to white men in her heyday, but white men don't make family legacies with Black female novelties. As for OG says, a counselor may A counselor marries a client. Yeah, I think that doesn't work out well. Lovely Trust has entered the chat. Black Uru Strike says coping. She could not get the man she really wanted to marry her. Andre says, I knew Whoopi liked white boys from when I seen the movie Ghost. LOL. Andre, she was very good in that. Trust says, hello, Trust. I don't know that she should have shared any of this with us. Well, Trust, it's very, very revealing. And I think here on this channel, one of the things we want to ask is what are the broader implications? Who's looking at her and trusting? Who's looking at her and saying, you know what, I want to do what Whoopi does, and I believe what Whoopi says. Guys and gals, I'm going to wrap this up. I've plugged my book before, but last week I was at the Congressional Black Caucus Annual Legislative Conference. Vending, shout out to Ron Wills. Shout out to Ron for giving me those pointers on vending. I sold copies of my book and I spoke on a panel. But I had the chance to watch other authors and watch other panels and support other Black authors. I supported some other Black authors. There were a lot of other interesting Black authors there. But there was a pastor who got up and went on a rant about this same topic, wealth building. I taped a little bit of it and I loaded it up, and I'm going to share it with you all because I think it gets to, were you taught about at home? Were you taught about wealth building? Was Whoopi taught about wealth building? Is Whoopi teaching her children about wealth building? Because when you grow up devaluing the other gender, and when you grow up hearing about how bad marriage is, and I heard about that from one parent, it shapes your worldview. It shapes your worldview. And if you don't learn about why and how marriage can be valuable, then you're going to see it as a liability. And today, based upon today's climate and today's culture, in many instances, you can make the argument that it is a liability and it isn't worth men taking the risk. And a lot of men are not willing to take the risk today in this culture. But let me play this short 1-minute snippet of this gentleman presenting his book. And some of you guys will laugh at this too. I laugh at it every time I see it.
Children's great-grandchildren. So we've got to start creating wealth that gets through 5 generations. And what I'm doing, someone asked me in a radio interview, they said, Dr. Jolly, what's your biggest goal? My biggest goal, I said it quickly to the guy. My biggest goal is that 100 years from now, some child will walk into a room and see a picture of me and my wife and run up to it and kiss it and say, thank you, great-great-great-granddaddy, and thank you, great-great-grandmama, for what you did back in 2024, 25, 26, to make it possible for us to have a home, to have a college education, to get a business. You want to grow wealth? Everybody in this room needs to get this book. You get copies for your children. And let me tell you one more thing about this book. Everybody has got a child. If you got more than one child, one of them children ain't good with money. Everybody. I got one. And they working every day, but then they come up every couple months, I'm a little short. All right? I'm a little short. This book is the answer.
Okay, so I take that with my phone, so it showed up like this, and you can still see me sitting there. I didn't want to show the video like that, but that's what happens when you take with your phone. But a couple things. That was this gentleman here. Oh, that site cannot be reached. Let me try another one. I want a close-up picture of him so you guys can see him. Let me do this. Willie Jolly. Okay, this is who that was. Okay, so he wrote a book. I mean, and after hearing that speech, you're kind of motivated to go get the book because he gave his little spiel so passionately. But he was talking about generational wealth, and he said that my dream is that generations from now, kids will thank me and my wife for setting us up to buy a house. Okay, so I think for a lot of people, especially from the Black community, that is so far removed from what they're thinking about. And I think that if you go back to the video that I showed prior to showing Kendra's video and the El Haj video, when you're talking about gender roles and not wanting to go back, shout out to Madam Vice President Harris. Having a legacy and a bloodline and passing on generational wealth, that's so far removed from what people are thinking about now. But I think people need to think about that now. When you're listening to a presidential campaign, when you're listening to Madam Vice President Harris push her points, how does this, if you care about having a bloodline, if you care about passing on generational wealth, how do these policy points play into that? How does that play into my future and my family's future? That's what that gentleman talked about at a Democratic conference. And how does everything reconcile together? I don't know. How does that reconcile with we're not going back? I don't know. Andre, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. That's much appreciated. Andre says, good work. I seen you on Facebook doing your thing, but I didn't want any people to see me liking it. LOL. Are you hiding from somebody, Andre? I haven't seen you. By the way, speaking of which, maybe there's a reason for this. I haven't seen you around our usual gang, so maybe you don't want somebody to see you. I don't know. But it's Facebook. Who cares? Facebook is whack at times. Most of the time, Facebook is whack. Black Uru Strike says, if I recall correctly, Whoopi made light of her daughter becoming a mother at 14 or 15 years old. So I might look sideways. I'll substitute sideways. I might look sideways at her parental guidance. Okay. Black Uri, this is happening a lot today. This is happening a lot. Tamika Mallory. I don't know if you all are familiar with Tamika Mallory. I know Dr. Keason Johnson and Dr. Ronald Neal. If you were paying attention to the Ferguson, the George Floyd murder, Tamika Mallory rose to prominence there. At a talk last week, Tamika Mallory, she can't be more than 45. She proudly shared with us she's a grandmother. So Black Uru Strikes, this is not unusual today. That's not unusual. And I'm not criticizing Tamika Mallory for anyone who's watching this, who was at the conference, or anyone who's a diehard blue blood Democrat or activist. I'm not criticizing Tamika Mallory. I'm just saying, based upon what Black Uru said there, and me looking around myself, it's not unusual to have grandmothers at late 30s today, early 40s, mid 40s. That's not unusual today. But we're living in a different time. Shout out to Passport OG. You can watch his content to see that. Okay, everybody, it's almost 9 o'clock. I gotta go. I gotta eat and hop in the bed and go back to battle and get Dusty in my office job tomorrow. Guys, more book vending. If you want to purchase a copy of my book, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story, Part 1, Innocent Basketball Dreams. This is very much a manhood story, a story about boys. It's yeah, this does dovetail well with some of the things Dr. T.S. Johnson talks about. And actually, when I was on the panel, and I'm going to share that, I'm going to upload that and share because I did tape it. I did come out and say on the panel, you know, men matter, okay, and the absence of men, especially for young boys, but also for girls, the absence of men is significant. So in this era where we're trying to destroy gender roles and smash them against the wall, and where a lot of things are spinning out of control, it's important to say that men matter, and the presence of men definitely matters. And that's the central theme of my book. If any of you guys want a signed copy, shout out to Money Motion. I'm selling the paperback to you guys for $22, and the hardcover, I'll do the hardcover for $25. That's a steep discount for what's on Amazon. You could use one of those methods in the ticker there, but make sure you send me your mailing address as well. This is more than just a basketball story. All right, everybody, I gotta go. Thank you to everyone who watched and donated and supported. Let me check my this here. Thank you to those of you who super chatted. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, I will talk to you all the next time. Andre wanted me. No, it was T Riddler. T Riddler wanted me to show the video on grandmothers, more and more grandparents having to take care of their children. And maybe I'll do that next week and show another Passport OG Emmy Award winning offering. There's so many, and they're coming out. He's shooting them out daily. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. If you're watching on the replay, gang, let me know what you think. And hopefully I don't wake up to a Google surprise saying, we took this down and we demonetized this because you showed the El Hash video. All right, everyone. Also, I did suspend my email, my email list. I would like to get back to it at one point, but I am taking names for when I reboot it one day. So if you want to join my list, my email address is in the description box. And yeah, everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. And hey, that's what we said. If you don't marry well, you might have to keep working the rest of your life. All right, everyone, have a good night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.